On January 1st, 2026, China set in motion a series of actions that went largely unnoticed by most Americans. It implemented new export licensing controls on silver, the essential metal behind every solar panel, electric vehicle, smartphone, and military electronic device across the globe. China controls the refining and processing of between 60 and 70% of the world's silver supply, and now it's restricted the amount that can leave its borders. The new rules are both precise and deliberately restrictive. To qualify for an export license from China's Ministry of Commerce, a company must demonstrate an annual silver production capacity of at least 80 tons and hold a credit line of around 30 million. These stringent requirements immediately cut off hundreds of small and mid-sized exporters who have traditionally served as key suppliers for global industries. This licensing framework is expected to remain in place through at least 2027, following a well-worn playbook China has previously used for other critical resources like rare earths, tungsten, antimony, and germanium, strategic minerals weaponized one by one, each tightening the West's industrial dependencies. Before China pulled this trigger, the global silver market was already in crisis. In 2025, global silver demand reached 1.24 billion ounces. Meanwhile, total supply, which includes both mine production and recycling, was just 1.01 billion ounces, leaving a deficit of 230 million ounces, the equivalent of Mexico's entire annual output, the world's largest silver producer. This was the fifth consecutive year of a structural deficit. From 2021 through 2025, the cumulative shortfall reached around 820 million ounces, largely covered by depleting above-ground inventories that are now nearing dangerously low levels. COMEX silver inventories have plummeted by 70% since 2020, with London vault stocks dropping by 40% over the same period. Shanghai inventories have fallen to 10-year lows, and some regions now only hold between 30 and 45 days' worth of usable silver at the current consumption rates. When China restricted the tap, the price of silver surged immediately. Silver is much more than a precious metal. It is essential to the modern world's technological and industrial needs. Many still think of silver primarily as jewelry, but that misunderstanding is costly. Silver is the most electrically conductive element on Earth, with no viable substitute for high-performance applications at scale. Every photovoltaic solar panel, for example, requires approximately 20 grams of silver in its conductive components. Every electric vehicle uses up to 2 ounces of silver in sensors, wiring, and power modules. From semiconductor fabs to AI data center cooling systems, from military radar arrays to advanced medical devices, silver is irreplaceable. By 2030, the International Energy Agency predicts that the solar and electric vehicle sectors will consume half of all global silver output, leaving minimal supply for uses like jewelry, coins, and investment. Industrial demand now accounts for around 59 to 60% of the total global silver consumption. Unlike investment demand, industrial demand is price inelastic. When a solar panel factory requires silver to keep production running, it doesn't wait for a better price. It buys at any price, every day. This is why China's export restriction is so significant. It's not a mere tariff or a negotiation tactic. It's a stranglehold on the physical inputs powering the modern industrial economy. Elon Musk himself has warned that the situation is dire. His entire electric vehicle production model depends on secure silver supply chains. But the problem doesn't stop there. The structural deficit in silver continues to worsen, and the supply response is agonizingly slow. Silver mining is constrained in a way that most commodities aren't. Approximately 72% of all silver mined globally is a byproduct of copper, zinc, and lead mining. The decision to mine more silver is therefore not made by silver producers, but by base metal miners responding to copper and zinc economics. Even if silver prices surge, copper and zinc miners don't necessarily increase their silver output. New dedicated silver mines take 8 to 12 years to develop, from discovery through permitting, construction, and production. Even recycling, which contributes about 180 to 190 million ounces annually, has remained stagnant for years and cannot be scaled quickly enough to meet growing demand. In short, there's no quick fix to the structural deficit in silver. There's no easy way to close the 230 million ounce annual gap in less than a decade. And now, with China controlling 60 to 70% of the world's refined silver supply behind a licensing wall, that deficit is about to get far worse. The implications of China's silver export restrictions are not confined to the commodity markets alone. They are deeply interconnected with China's broader strategic response to its economic challenges. Since the introduction of the export licensing system, analysts have projected that if China cuts its silver exports by just 50%, global silver deficits could exceed 5,000 metric tons annually, compounding the existing shortfalls and straining critical industrial supply chains. The most bullish silver price forecast currently stands at $150 per ounce in extreme scenarios. Meanwhile, The consensus from major financial institutions like ING, Saxo Bank, Bank of America, and HSBC estimates that silver prices will average between $55 and $70 per ounce through 2026. At the time of writing, silver has already surpassed $32 per ounce, pricing in the initial supply shock, and the licensing restrictions have only been in place for 4 months. Here's where the story takes a more strategic turn. China's silver move is linked to its broader strategy to move away from the US dollar. As Chinese exporters face a massive increase in US tariffs, 145% on goods shipped to America, they've sought to mitigate the damage by redirecting trade through third-party intermediaries in countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, and Thailand. While these exporters continue generating hundreds of billions of dollars in revenues, the crucial shift is what they are doing with those dollars. Rather than holding on to them, Chinese exporters are increasingly converting their dollar earnings into tangible assets, such as yen, gold, and notably silver. By restricting silver exports, China is not just manipulating a commodity market. It is leveraging silver as a strategic asset in its broader efforts to decouple from the US dollar. This process, in which silver prices rise globally, gives Chinese exporters an opportunity to buy silver at appreciating prices within a market where China controls the supply. The ultimate result is that the West is faced with 2 choices: pay dramatically higher prices for silver or see its industrial transition slow down. Meanwhile, the paper-to-physical silver ratio stands at an extraordinary 356 to 1. This means that for every ounce of silver that actually exists in deliverable form, there are 356 paper contracts, futures, swaps, or ETFs, claiming ownership of silver that doesn't physically exist. This divergence between the paper market and the physical market is already causing premiums on physical silver. As more industrial buyers demand delivery of physical silver, this imbalance is expected to force a price dislocation unlike anything seen in modern silver market history. In essence, China has recognized something that the West has largely ignored. The future of energy is powered by metals. Whoever controls the metals controls the future. By restricting silver exports, China is ensuring that it maintains a dominant role in the global green transition. The United States, by contrast, is heavily dependent on China for refined silver, a situation that is becoming increasingly untenable as geopolitical tensions rise and the strategic importance of this metal becomes clearer. This is not just about silver jewelry or coins. It's about the metal that powers solar panels on American rooftops, the batteries in American cars, the circuits in American smartphones, and the components in American defense systems. China has now officially designated silver as a strategic mineral, placing its export controls on the same regulatory footing as rare earths. The West spent decades caught off guard by China's rare earth strategy, and now the silver restriction is following the same playbook, only this time the window to respond is closing fast. The repercussions of China's silver export restrictions are not just a matter of economics or industrial supply chains. They strike directly at U.S. national security and the strategic positioning of its industries. The U.S. government recognized silver as a critical mineral in November of 2025, placing it on the official U.S. Geological Survey's list alongside rare earths, cobalt, and graphite. This designation was made due to silver's integral role in electrical circuits, batteries, solar cells, and even antibacterial medical instruments. However, what the official language doesn't fully convey is the depth of the U.S. defense sector's dependence on silver. Silver plays a crucial role in military electronics, radar systems, precision guidance components, and advanced. There are 27 accredited silver refineries in the U.S., listed by the London Bullion Market Association, but China controls 60 to 70% of the world's refined silver supply. Japan is the next largest refining hub, with only 13 accredited refineries. There is no short-term solution to replicate China's refining capacity. Even if billions of dollars were invested into building new refining infrastructure, it would take 5 to 10 years for it to become operational, time that the U.S. simply doesn't have. The current structural silver deficit, combined with China's control over the majority of global refined silver, creates a direct vulnerability for the U.S. defense sector. If China's restrictions on silver exports escalate further, from licensing to quotas to full prohibition, the U.S. would face a significant supply chain disruption for its military and defense technologies. This isn't just an economic problem, it's a matter of national security. While Latin American silver producers like Peru, Mexico, Chile, and Bolivia could theoretically expand output by about 15% with sustained Western investment, this increase would not be enough to close the gap. New mining operations would take at least 8 to 12 years to bring online. Furthermore, urban mining, extracting silver from electronic waste and end-of-life solar panels, is a viable long-term option, but it cannot address the immediate shortage. Recycling contributes only 180 to 190 million ounces annually. a figure that remains essentially stagnant and is insufficient to close the 230 million ounce annual gap in the short term. The honest truth is this: in the near term, 2026, 2027, and 2028, there is no viable substitute for Chinese refined silver at the scale needed by global industries. The International Energy Agency projects that by 2030, solar energy and electric vehicles alone will consume half of all global silver output. China, therefore, will need much of that silver for its own green transition. It has made it clear that its domestic industrial needs come first, leaving the West to compete for whatever is left. This is not about silver for jewelry. It's not about silver for coins. This is about the metal that powers the clean energy transition in the U.S. The solar panels on American rooftops, the batteries in American electric vehicles, the circuits in American smartphones, and the critical components in U.S. defense systems. China has strategically placed silver under its control, just as it did with rare earths. The West, particularly the U.S., now faces a critical challenge: to develop a robust, self-sufficient silver supply chain, or continue to depend on China and face rising costs and security risks. The time to act is now, but the window for response is rapidly closing.